Let's talk about the From Hell book that you recolored. Um, how challenging was it? How challenging was it to revisit this book and put it into
Um,
color?
uh, you know, when you when you have every book that you're going to, any medium, a film, a Broadway play, um, the makers, the creators of artistic objects always want always want to get the best from it that they can. They want it to be seen by the largest, the greatest number of people. They want it to be available for a long time, and um, for that to be so, for that to make that work, you've got to maintain your work. A lot of maintenance work involved in keeping a thing fresh and new and up to date. You've got to maintain your house. You've got to maintain your garden, and you've got to maintain a book, which may just mean every 3 or 4 years taking all your works and sending them all out under new covers, with new blurbs and so on. Um, and people who publish books are always got an eye to that. What can we do with it? What are we going to do with this to bring new attention to it? And From Hell was coming up to the 20-year mark, and they were talking to me 2 years ago, and it seemed to me that after 20 years, I could face doing a serious overhaul in the same thing rather than just putting it out with a new cover or the basic insides hadn't changed in 20 years. In that time, I've seen everything that's wrong with it. Everything doesn't look right to me. All those places where somebody's got two left hands or something, or a hat doesn't sit on a head properly, or a head's too small, or an arm's too long, or Netley isn't isn't riding the same coach on this page as he is 2 pages later. This was a chance for me to overhaul it and rationalize the whole thing from beginning to end, because it was originally done over 10 pages. I didn't know anything about Victorian coaches in 1990. I looked at a lot in the 30 years since then. I figured out how the spring, how the whole thing sits on the back. The spring sits on the back axle, and less so in the front because the front wheels are slightly forward. I understand now how the whole thing works. The front wheels have to twist around, you see, so their spring is in the center thing on a kind of circle called the fifth wheel, and that swivels this way and that. The horses turn that, blah, 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 blah. I even got them with 4 horses at one point. You only need 2 horses in the kind of carriage I'd given that thing. You could get away with one even if you didn't have 4 people in the carriage. I think he's got 1 horse. I think we got him with 1 horse. I always wanted to know where Netley keeps his horse. He doesn't own the whole thing. These things, I would have fixed that too, but it would have meant rewriting Alan's script. So I didn't touch them. But I thoroughly enjoyed figuring out the atmospheres of old London, which would have been different from the atmosphere today. There was smoke, fog. Fog really is when rain gets smog gets mixed up with industrial smoke. I mean, they get those pea super fogs. Victorian London was a soupy place to walk around in. But anyway, I wanted to go at it and really think about the atmosphere and the light and in what ways it was just subtly different from London today. And I suddenly remembered there was a detail Arthur Conan Doyle, when he first arrived, who wrote Sherlock Holmes, when he first arrived in London, we came from Edinburgh. He was horrified at the black soot that ran down the gutters in London streets. It sickened him. It was just horrible black shitty soup running down the gutter. So I just, in 30 years, I didn't want to redo the book, but colouring it, laying a layer of colour over it and fixing choice details was a way of giving it an overhaul without having to redraw the whole thing. It was a way of imbuing it with a new spirit that was not entirely different from previous spirit, but a revitalized spirit. I dressed it up in new clothes and set it forth on the stage of life to live and dance once again. That was my intention. What do you think?
It's a little jarring, to be honest with you, because it's a book that I read, almost 20 years ago, and to see it in color is
You're not one of them.
But it leads me to the question: if somebody hasn't read From Hell before, would you prefer that they come to the color version first?
Yes, read the cover. I'm proud of the color one. It's a new book, and I'm excited and proud of it.